Hey Lydia, I just got mail that was actually meant for you. What do you want me to do with it?
Oh, really? What does it say?
It says Lydia Stevens, author of the Hellfire series and Ginger Davenport escapades, intern of the House Literary Agents, editor of the House Acquisitions, master of the comma, and ruler of the pen.
Oh, sounds like I made a promotion.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Red Ink Writers podcast. My name is Sandy Butchers. I'm the author and illustrator of the Singularian Grimoire anthologies on Patreon, and I'm glad you made it back to us.
And my name is Lydia Stevens, author of the Hellfire series and the Ginger Davenport escapades, former literary agency intern and acquisitions assistant, as well as a developmental editor. We are so glad you can join us today.
Red Ink is proud to be an official sponsor of Write Hive, the non-profit writing community providing free, inclusive events, programs, and resources for writers of all backgrounds. Did you know they are having a silent auction from the 2nd to the 7th of December? All kinds of writing-related goodies are up to the highest bidder, and the proceeds go straight into the Write Hive organization so they can provide us with more free and awesome events in the very near future. Now, Red Ink will also be pitching in with things like Query Critiques by Lydia Stevens or Art Prints of the Singularian made by myself. So if you want to get your hands on some really cool stuff, go keep an eye out on their website, writehive.org. This week, Lydia and I are talking about promoting your book, and as many of us know, social media takes up a very big part of that. Even though it sometimes feels like screaming into the void, as so many people already call it. To make good promotion, you need to do a lot more than just throw your stuff out there on social media. And today, Lydia and I will shed some new light on how to do that and how to cultivate the readers your work deserves. But before we dive into the meat of today's video, we'd like you to take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button down below. About 53% of all you people watching us aren't currently subscribed, and although we really appreciate your viewership, if you really want to support us and make sure we keep the content coming, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Also, if you can find the hidden coffee cup somewhere in this episode, be sure to tell us the timestamp when you see it, so that you can win a free ebook from either me or Lydia. Who doesn't want their work promoted without all the hours of endless work? Right? Nobody. In fact, I dare say that if given a chance, any writer would sell their soul to the devil if it would instantly turn them into a bestseller. But hard work is an important part of, participating in the writing industry. And so screaming into the void and people neglecting you and ignoring you and blocking you and paying bills and even sometimes swindles are a part of the process of getting your work out there. But if I tell you that these things can all be avoided, I hear you ask, but Sandy, how? I'm sure Lydia can tell us a lot more about that.
There's a number of things that you can do to get your book promoted, get your book out there. The list is endless of the various ways that you can promote yourself. I think one of the biggest things that every author needs to start with and have is first a website and a newsletter. Once you develop that, people can go, you've got a landing page where people can go, they can learn about you, your work, your back matter, your future projects, things like that. And it's all right there. As well as a newsletter. A newsletter is something that it pops into their email every now and then, and as long as you don't get spammy with it, they're going to say, ooh, I wonder what's happening next, and it's a great way to do giveaways, because who doesn't like free stuff? And if people know that you are going to associate, if they can associate you with, getting, maybe a chapter or something, or a free novella, or, a little giveaway or something every now and then, they're more likely to open your emails, which then also directs them to your books. So that's a great way to do promotion. There are some people who have a lot of great luck with ads, Facebook ads, Amazon ads. I mean, it really depends on your budget. It's, I personally don't have the budget to do a lot of that. So I'm learning different ways to promote myself. Reader magnets are a huge thing. I mean, we can talk about those for
hours.
Yeah, for hours.
Absolutely, yeah.
Joining different writing groups, because every writing group, they typically will have a rule of no self-promotion, but most of them will have like a day where you can self-promote or something like that. Another really big thing that I'm hearing about lately is newsletter swaps. So you host or do a guest spot in your newsletter, and likewise the person that you're swapping with will put you in front of their readership. So
that's a good one. I haven't heard of that one yet.
Yeah, there are so many different ways that you can promote that are good ways, and I think we also need to maybe discuss some of the not so good ways to promote.
And also just thinking back about the things that you just named, like the writing groups and the newsletter swaps. Like, I've heard of blog swaps, and actually I'm kind of surprised that I haven't heard of newsletter swaps yet, because they're pretty much the same. But coming back to the writing groups for a second, and I'm part of quite a couple of writing groups, and there is always people just spamming around. And although the rules state that you should not just enter the group and say, "Hi, I wrote this, go to this website, follow the link, blah, blah, blah," people are still doing that. And I think that is the biggest red flag that we can give people when you're promoting your book, is to shove it in people's face and say, "Here's my book, buy it."
Yeah, that's definitely not the way to go about promoting yourself. But when you're joining writers groups and stuff like that, you definitely want to interact with people. So, you want to have that, you want to build that relationship with people. It's like, building a relationship with an editor or beta reader or something like that. You want to connect with your readers, and you don't want to just constantly be like, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. So, you need to participate in these groups. When somebody asks a question, writer's advice, bring your experience to this. Share in your process, because that's how we grow and develop, and that therefore it promotes you. So they're gonna be more likely to think, hey, they answered my question, maybe check out their books or whatever, or engage in a conversation. So you definitely want to take a look at all of the rules of social media forums and different pages and groups and stuff like that, to figure out what their different rules are and whatnot. But they're a great way to, because writers are readers. I don't think you can be a good writer unless you are an avid reader. And so, you also have to consider join reader groups. The reader groups are the readers who are going to be looking for your genre, and, target your genre that you're writing in. Because if you are, and there's nothing saying you can't write across multiple genres, but if you are a romance and a horror writer, and you're in both groups, you don't want to be promoting your horror book in the romance group or your romance book in the horror group, because that's just not going to work. So definitely,
you can't have horrible romance, but
yeah, it's a horror show.
There are possibilities, but that's not really something you would want.
So it's really know your audience is the key to good self-promotion and
speaking of
getting
audience,
your book out there.
I think there is a really interesting conflict in audiences going on, because on social media, the idea is to get as many followers as you can in as little time as you can. So it's basically quantity over quality, and like, you're already shaking your head. That is definitely not how it works. And let me just clarify for our listeners. Yes, it's true that especially on Twitter, you need a certain amount of followers to actually even become part of the algorithm. And I think that, like, the first bar you need to clear is 1,000 followers to even be interesting for the algorithm. And from there, it's 10,000 followers to actually to keep that momentum in there. So we understand that you want to get 10,000 followers as fast as you can, but you will notice that if you're just going to harvest followers, you're not going to get interaction. But at the same time, you'll see that if you have 10,000 followers and you need to interact with each and every one of them, that is not going to work. It's impossible to interact with 10,000 people at the same time. So start small and start with groups that you can manage, and from there allow the growth. At least that's the way I would approach this.
Yeah, definitely. I think, social media is kind of a follower beast. It doesn't matter which platform you're on. If you're on Twitter, if you're Facebook. TikTok is a new one that I'm seeing. Instagram, it's all about the followers, the counts, and
Book Talk especially.
the way these social medias work is you don't get exposure until you reach a certain plateau of followers, and you also have to wonder, are these people the people who are going to be buying your books? So they're not organic in the sense that you've sought them out specifically for your readership. They're just numbers. So of those 10,000, you might get a few who actively engage with your material. And that's important to cultivate those few. And then the more, so yes, go for the followers so that you can get the exposure, but keep in mind,
finding the balance really. It's picking out who are you going to interact with and who are you just going to have on there to get the numbers working for you.
So what I do with mine is, every few posts or something like that will be something about my books. And that does not get a lot of engagement right now, which I'm okay with because I'm slowly building my readership. But most of the time, I'm just posting about everyday life. I'm just posting about things that make me laugh or things that make me smile or something like that, because everybody can relate to that. So you don't know who's going to be in your readership. You would be surprised who someone might turn out to be, like a super fan, someone who will read your romance, who will read your horror, who will read your nonfiction book about Sir Isaac Newton or something like that. They're going to read you across the board. Those are the readers where you want that relationship, where they're going to follow you through your writing career no matter what. And then you obviously want your readers that are specific to, some of the different projects that you have. That's great. But one of the things that I'm learning is, if you're engaging with people on just an everyday life basis, with funny posts and stuff like that, be surprised who will then become a reader.
So but it's funny because at the same time, I can already imagine a lot of people saying, but Sandy, what if the biggest part of my life is writing or is drawing or is making art, and so they have nothing else to post except for, so I'm going to be honest here. A large part of what I post on social media is, look, I've been doing this today. So yes, I'm actually kind of the person that says, okay, whatever I'm posting, it somehow always has something to do with something I'm creating. And that's basically my role as an artist for this part. But there really is a balance that you need to find, because there is a way of aggressively promoting your stuff, and there is a way of showing you what you do in your normal life. In my case, it's 90% creating art and writing. But you will also find the other 10% in there. So just for the people who think they have nothing more to offer than their work, think again. Please think again.
Yes. It could just be a funny meme that you find on the internet.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be something, So, and the thing with an artist is, I've watched and shared some of your art, as you're doing the real-time artwork videos and stuff like that. And yes, it's around your books, but it is fascinating to see how it actually all comes together in terms of the art, the print, creating that. So that is one of those things where I know you're trying to sell something, but at the same time, I'm more focused on what you're creating right then and there with the picture, with the drawing and things. So to see your process is what is engaging. So, that's a subtle way of promoting. So I think you can, as an artist, you can get away with that. I mean, if I were to do a video of me sitting here writing my book, nobody would watch.
There are streams that actually do that. It's just people staring at the screens, hitting the keyboard, and I'm like, okay, wow.
Yeah, I don't have any interest in that. But what I did learn the other day is working with a life coach. One of the things that he said to me is, you need to come up with a way to connect with your reader audience, and that isn't around your work, but you want to target the people who are going to be reading your work. And so what would interest them? What outside of your books, what would interest them? And one of the things that he sent me, and we were laughing about it, is this podcast. There's this woman, and I can't remember her name, but she does an entire podcast where she analyzes every episode of Buffy. And I love Buffy. I love Supernatural. I love Buffy. I love magic. I love the whole bit. So me as an urban fantasy and paranormal writer with some romance, that really speaks to me. And so the podcast I'm probably going to subscribe to and listen to. And so I was thinking, I was like, well, what can I do? Being an urban fantasy writer, paranormal writer, what could I do that isn't, focused on my work, but I could bring to my reader audience? And I've always wanted to do like a comparison of an episode to a couple episodes or something like that of, who kicked ass more, Buffy or Supernatural?
Ooh, the comparison videos.
Yeah, so I think I might try something like that and, see how it goes. But that's my target audience, the urban fantasy, the paranormal. Yeah. So, I might try to go that route. And then, as my life coach was saying, you bring something like this to the community, and then as you get into it and you're blogging or whatever, then when you have a release, you can say, hey, by the way, I have this new book out. So that's a great way to promote.
Indirect marketing is always more efficient than aggressive marketing. Like, give them something they really enjoy to make them curious for something more.
Yeah.
So that's basically what you're doing. Yeah.
So that's, I think I might try that. And I'm like, oh, that means I get to go watch Buffy and Supernatural again.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who's the better hero, Harry Dresden or Buffy?
Oh, I'm going to have to come down on the side of Buffy. I love Harry Dresden. I love Harry Dresden. Actually, I like Bob.
Yes. Bob the president.
Harry Dresden is great. I love the audiobooks. James Marsters is the audiobook narrator, so I like to listen to the Harry Dresden Files, and he's a badass wizard. But I mean, there's something about Buffy that's just, and I grew up in the 90s, so, you've got Buffy, you've got girl power, that whole movement, stuff like that. And so I'm just like, yeah, she kicks ass, man. So, I remember my first paranormal book that I did, Why Me, of the Ginger Davenport SPs. I came down from my bedroom at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I just had it in my head. I was like, I need a wooden vampire stake. And my older brother was sitting there having his cup of coffee, and I was like, I need somebody to carve me a wooden stake. And within a half an hour, I had lids, I did stake.
That's the thing on your website as well, isn't it?
Yes, this is my wooden stake, and I, every now and then I dance around my bedroom. We're not going to tell people that I pretend to be Buffy, but yeah. So self-promotion is, how can you engage with your readers that doesn't say, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. And this is definitely, have a conversation, have a, and I really do want to get my readers going. So I think when I do this, it's going to be, I think there's probably twice as many Supernatural episodes as there are Buffy episodes. So I'll probably do, for every one Buffy episode, 2 Supernatural episodes, something like that. I'll figure out the logistics of it. But, I'll give my opinion of which I think is better, who kicked ass more, and then maybe do, what's your thoughts kind of thing to engage the readers. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Find fun ways to engage your readers and try not to stab anybody. Yeah.
Red Ink has opened the door to their virtual studio for fellow writers and members of the writing community. Do you want your book promoted on our show? Well, that is as of now possible. On our website, redinkwriters.com, we have a continuous raffle going on where you can enter to win that free promotion of your book. This week, I'd like to show you I, Sovereign, which is the 10th installment of the Singalarian Grimoire Anthologies, which I offer to my readers on Patreon. Have a listen. Sovereign finds himself in a constant struggle between who and what he is. Deep inside, he wants to discover the endless possibilities he was gifted with as a machine, but at the same time he fears that Ghost, his software, may slowly take over. When a crackling radio signal calls for help and Sovereign traces his back to the Witch of Jeffkins Bog, the answer to his synthetic equation casts him into a final conflict between him and Ghost, resulting into a standoff between two entities seeking equity in their existence. Season 1 is coming to an end in December 2021, but Sovereign and the Others will be back for a complete 12-episode Season 2 in 2022. To celebrate the renewal of the series, you can now get your hands on all previous episodes for free, which basically means that you could get 11 books for as little as $4 if you choose to read it through ebooks. If you choose to get the paperbacks, that would be $10. Don't wait, because before you know it, this offer is already ended, and you have to subscribe for Season 1 and wait for a full year to get your hands on Season 2. Don't wait, go to patreon.com/sandybutchers.
Hey, welcome to another segment of the Industry Insights. I'm Lydia Stevens, as you know, and I'm bringing you my expertise from working at a literary agency and a publishing house, and to just bring you some tips and tricks of the industry. Particularly if you are looking at traditional publishing. That's kind of where this segment is focused. So today I am going to keep with the theme of the episode and talk to you about promotion. So we've been talking about how to promote for the entire episode and things like that, and we've brought you, newsletters, websites, reader magnets, takeovers, all these different things, social media that you can be doing to promote yourself. But one of the big questions that I seem to hear a lot or heard a lot was, well, the trade publisher is going to market for me. And yes, this is true to an extent, but not nearly as much as they used to. So the question, do I need to do self-promotion with traditional publishing? And yes, you do. Because budgets are, that seems to be a big thing in the industry. How much is this book going to sell? What can we budget for it? This and that. Marketing and self-promotion is being more and more left up into the hands of the author. And, again, you don't have to have a massive budget to be able to self-promote yourself, but you need to consider, when you get that advance, when you get that first check, are you going to go buy the big, beautiful yacht, or are you going to invest in your career? Are you going to self-promote and really secure getting the readers and self-promoting the book and, building that platform? So that's another word that you hear a lot in promotion is platform. And what that is that's your community. That's your readership. That's your fans, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. You need to have that platform established. And here's the real kicker. With nonfiction, you need to have your platform established before you even submit to an agent. And I know this is really hard. This is kind of that seems really backwards. Why is anybody going to follow me if I don't have a book to already? Because you're not selling the book at this point, you're selling yourself. So what can you contribute to this particular topic, especially in nonfiction? Say you're writing about how to crochet, little ducks. Who is going to buy a book about how to crochet little ducks? So you need to be, thinking about your platform and how you're going to target these readers. And, you absolutely have to have this book. I teach you everything there is to know about crocheting little ducks and, why that's important. Maybe you're a grandmother and you love crocheting and you want to target other grandmothers and you want to bring, your expertise on this subject to them. So how are you going to target that audience? And then you're going to build that. You're going to get the followers who are going to buy this book as soon as it comes out. So that when you do query an agent, especially with nonfiction, you have to have what's called a proposal. And that is, what is your platform? Are you on Facebook, Twitter? Are you on the Grandma's Crocheting Little Ducks forum and you're now the moderator? So therefore your expertise and knowledge is essential to the community to have this. And it needs to be in book format because people can't read the teeny tiny little print on the social media form. Something like that, Do you have any pre-established books about crocheting in general? These are just to name a few things that you need to have in a proposal, and you should really research how to write a full proposal. for nonfiction and have that platform established so that an agent will look at it and say, oh, they are really going to sell a lot of copies of this book because everybody needs to know how to crochet little ducks. It didn't used to be that you had to have an established platform in fiction, genre fiction, specifically. It's starting to turn that way. There are some agents who want to know how many followers you have, how many subscribers you have to your newsletter. Were you indie or hybrid author, and how many copies have you sold of, your previous books? They want to know that you're a good salesperson. So you need to be aware that this is starting to become more and more a thing in traditional publishing for fiction writers to have some sort of a platform. Even if it's not fully established, they want to know that you're building that platform. So, are you a member of, in my case, urban fantasy writers groups? How many and how? And there's a term for it, and it is called borrowed platform. And that is what we were talking about earlier, and that is a takeover. Are these groups of, 14,000 people, 30,000 people in the urban fantasy community or whatever, are you allowed to do a takeover in that group, which means you can promote your book, so you can potentially sell your book. So you definitely want to start building your social media and your platform, your website. They might want to know if you have a website or a newsletter or something like that. So it is becoming more and more common to see in traditional publishing, especially, how are you promoting yourself before your book is even published. So just so that you're aware, it's not like how it used to be. A publishing house is not going to just, take your book, edit it, publish it, provide you with a personal assistant, a PA, a publicist. A lot of the big houses do still have those options, but there's typically a certain amount of time that they will work on your book, unless you're in like the top 1%, and then they're sort of dedicated throughout the whole, duration of your book's publishing life, shelf life. And then they move on to another project. So you need to be aware that you might have to take that first advance that you get and, hire your own personal publicist or personal assistant to really get your book out there and to keep it out there. That's the key is, self-promotion doesn't just stop the day after the book is published. You have to constantly be thinking of ways to engage readers and get new readers. So that is what I'm going to bring to you today for Industry Insights is you still need to be your own self-advocate when it comes to promotion. Even if you get that big traditional publishing deal, just be aware you will be responsible for getting your name out there because it is your name on the book that you're selling. So have fun and good luck.
This week's Twitter poll asked you what subject you were most eager to hear about, and we gave you 3 options: avoiding the void, promotion through podcasts, and reader magnets. Now, Twitter has spoken, and the most popular answer coming from the community was avoiding the void. By the way, did you have a look at our new web shop yet? There's all kinds of writing-related goodies and art prints and Hellfire and Singularian mugs, which are all perfect presents for the upcoming holidays. Go ahead and have a look at readingwriters.com/shop. Right, so no writer wishes to scream into the void when it comes to promoting our work. This feeling of screaming without anyone listening is always very strong when it comes to things like Twitter Pitch Fest. But in general, posting on social media often gives the idea that you're talking while nobody is listening. I know from experience that the amount of people following you will not really affect that feeling. Like the void will always be there, no matter how many people you have on your platform. But that doesn't mean there aren't any ways to go about that. And I'm looking at content or newsletter or blog swabs. But there's also one very specific thing that will help you stay away from that void as much as possible. And those are social media takeovers. Now, Lydia, you have quite some experience when it comes to takeovers. Can you tell us a little bit more about what a takeover is and how it works?
Sure. So a takeover is when you go into someone else's group or readership community, and you take over that group for the day. So the one that I do is the paranormal women's fiction. That is paranormal romance for women 40 and older. So it's sort of that midlife target audience. And one of the rules is I need to have at least 3 giveaways. So on the day that my book is released, or the day that I have my book party with the takeover, I do at least 3 giveaways. I typically do 5 because that really engages, and that way I can, hey, to win this, I typically do some sort of an e-reader is the big present, some Amazon gift cards. I do little demon plushies, which kind of mesh with my Hellfire series. So, what you're doing is you're engaging with that reader community, and you're trying to get them to buy your book. It's a good way to say, hey, did you sign up for my newsletter? Have you followed me on Amazon? Did you, follow me on Twitter or other social media, something like that. So it's a great way to sort of cultivate readers because, like I said, readers are always looking for the new author. They're looking for a new read, avid readers especially. And if you're writing in that genre, and you're targeting those readers, that's a great way to say, hey, you love these people. How about you check out my book?
Yeah, and I think in general, the people who will join you during these takeovers, for a fact that these people are interested.
Yes.
So it's a very direct way of talking to the people who will listen to you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I'll be doing with my reader magnet in a few weeks is just putting out a general post on Facebook saying, hey, who's got a group I can put my new free novella in? And, that typically gets a lot of response. People, and then you have permission to post in their group, which is a takeover. So takeovers are a great way to develop your community. And, it's not, I think there's sort of this, misunderstanding or this belief that if you go into somebody else's reader group, you're stealing those readers. That's not how it works.
No.
Readers love multiple authors because, I hear all the time, if you're a series writer, there are some people who won't even touch a series until it's completed. But, they're always, looking for the next book, especially if it's, if it's traditional publishing, there's typically only one book published per year. So,
people are not going to spend an entire year on reading that book, so they need more.
Yeah, and indie authors especially are great at production and, putting books out, that's kind of the ongoing trend right now is books. So, they want the next read to get them through, so that's one of the best things about a takeover is you're not stealing anybody's readers. You're making a broader community for the particular.
I think in general the writing community is not competitive at all. Like there is competition until you get the agent or until you get to the point where you sort of cut the umbilical cord and then you're out into the world and you're free. And it's almost overly romanticized. But once you are past the point where you've done the thing, you have published the book, everyone is so supportive and everybody's like, oh, you sold 500 copies and everybody's super proud of you. And so there's this sort of tipping point from where the writing community is not at all competitive. They're like super supportive. So there is no stealing.
I totally agree with that. So takeovers are a great way. Newsletter swaps, we talked about that a little bit. Blog swaps. I've done that a couple of times. So if you're really targeting those particular newsletters and blogs that you want your book to be put out into, that's a great way to get promotion, to get seen. Another thing that I have, kind of been working with is ARC readers. So you do a reader ARC, which is you make your book for free for a few people before it's published. And that way, the day of publishing, you can request from your ARC readers your reviews. So people talk about reviews are such a big thing, and if you get so many reviews, there is an algorithm to it. I don't know how many it is on Amazon for it to kind of get bumped up to that next.
I think it was 75 or something. 75 reviews will get you to the next level. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's, and then you've got people who say they don't care about reviews. They don't, they just, if they read the back jacket copy and it sounds interesting, then they'll start reading. Every reader is different how they approach a book and whether or not they pick it up. Me, I'm a very visual person. It's typically a cover, and I know I've talked about this before, but
yeah, we've had an entire episode on that.
Or haunted houses or whatever. I'm there, like I'm gonna read that, and then if the back jacket copy sounds interesting to me, I'm gonna open the book and so. Blogs, newsletters, you've got your book cover in those. There, it's getting visibility, whatever. So, definitely be aware that there are so many options, and people get so hung up on ads. And there's pros and cons to it. I mean, if you've got the budget to do it, I know people who have done it successfully, and they're getting sales based on ads and target marketing through these ads and things like that. And then there's someone like me, I can't afford it. So I have to find other ways to get my book out there and to get people to say, hey, I love this. So just, with all the different options for promotion, you don't have to break the bank to get your book out there. So just be aware. And takeovers are a great way to do that. And it's also supporting other authors, because then you can come back and say, hey, I did a takeaway in this authors group and they were fantastic. They let me, So it's authors supporting other authors and writers, and that's really important, I think.
Yeah. And I think the core of this all is like when we are speaking of avoiding the void, the whole trick with this is that you are pinpointing the people who are interested. So we talked about how on one hand you need the numbers on your social media to even become part of the whole social media game. But at the same time, we also said that you need people who are specifically interested in what you have to offer. And these takeovers are the perfect way to do that. Like, yes, you can have the number of empty followers who don't really interact, but these takeovers will get you into direct contact with the people who will interact. And
right.
It's like usually these takeovers take 5 or 6 hours, or is it longer?
Yeah. I spread mine out with the Paranormal Women's Fiction Group. I have 5 giveaways, but I typically try to do 10 posts. I'll do 1 an hour or something like that. From the time that I get up until, I'll leave a couple hours at the end of the night to respond to comments. Because this is a community of 14,000 members. So, when I get interactions with the readers there, it's, I'm liking and commenting and responding, because one of the things about takeaways is don't just come dump your book and then not interact with the group.
No, exactly. That's basically where I was going to.
Yeah, I have seen that where people will do that and they just expect these readers to just hop on board and you got a cool giveaway. So they might interact with the giveaway post, but then they're not interacting.
But they're going to ignore everything else. And then you're back to screaming at the void again because you're not interacting. And these takeovers are pretty much, 10 plus hours of being in direct contact. They are the best opportunity to keep talking to the people who might be interested in your book. And of course, it might also be that of these 14,000 people who are part of the book community, maybe even 50 are part of the live takeover. Maybe another 150 will read your post afterwards, and the other 13,000, whatever, they don't even look at it. That's fine. And this is where quality goes over quantity. So this is the exact opposite of what's going on in social media in general, where it's quantity over quality. Right here, you have the quality. So please, when you do the takeover, use the fact that you can have quality interaction here, because it's so important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, especially with Twitter, I've never really heard of a takeover on Twitter. But you're the whole screaming into the void of followers and algorithms and the numbers and stuff like that. I think that this is a takeover is an example of where you can then move from quantity, the numbers, into the quality. So you've built the numbers up, or you're being invited to participate with the numbers which are already established.
Exactly.
So now you want quality. So, I hear a debate all the time of quality over quantity. Well, in this market, you really have to be able to do both. And I will firmly stand by, you have to build one with the numbers, and then, but at the same time, you need to bring them quality.
Yeah.
So
it's a difficult game, that is granted.
Yeah, it's not one or the other anymore. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Well, that's it again for today. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we do invite you to tell us below in the comments how you usually go about promoting your work. Now, speaking of promotion, Lydia, didn't you have something very special to tell us today?
Yes, actually, I would like to announce that I'm going to have a free novella in November. So Hot as Hell to Pay is the prequel to the Hellfire series and book 1, Highway to Hell. And that is going to be available to download to anyone who subscribes to my newsletter, which you can find at www.lydia-stevens.com. Hot as Hell to Pay is Catriona's story when she is a human before she becomes a demon mercenary working for the devil. So she is going to be in that position where she has to make a choice. Does she stand by and do nothing and end up burning in eternity, in hell for an eternity, or does she get the chance at redemption to redeem her soul? So be on the lookout for Hot as Hell to Pay. Sign up for my newsletter. If you sign up, you will automatically receive an email to get that download link. And I hope that you will come check out my work. Thanks.
We hope to see you again in the next one when we discuss networking as a writer. And we'll have Bob and Rance Denton from the Quarantine Book Club on our next episode to discuss the importance of networking and the role podcasts can play in the process. And until that time, remember, you've got this, even if you don't know what the fuck you're doing.